welcome to another episode of Bscene TV. I'm your host, Will Wilson, and this is our Valentine's feature, and of course, we've got some confessions for you. Get prepared, because this is Bscene TV.
Well, love is complex. I don't think you can put it in a box. There's different layers to love. You love things differently. Love is an action word. It's something that needs to be activated. You got to put work into it.
I think it's a feeling. I think you can't stop it. I think when it happens, it happens.
It's a big word. I think children growing up watching Disney movies and whatnot believe there's some kind of childish love, like you're gonna find your Prince Charming, if you will. But if you find the one you're supposed to be with, then yeah.
So love for me is a feeling. It's not a concept or a thought. It used to be at one point, and it feels more like a feeling and a connection. And it comes in different colors and shapes and different varieties, if you will. We have the choice to always love people, but I think it's easier sometimes so that we can move on to a different partner, a different space in our life.
Love is an amazing thing that cannot really get described, because it's the feeling between a person and another that is a connection between two people that doesn't occur that often.
You know, everybody wants to believe in the fantasy, and potentially it's true. It's becoming a lot harder to come by. Obviously, we live in a complex society. You know, things are coming and going, including relationships, but yeah, it's possible.
I do believe in a soulmate. I do believe in soulmates as well. I do believe that it's all about timing or your paths, because you have tons of connections with tons of people you meet.
Yeah, like I said, you get all the hype growing up as to what to expect. I don't think love's ever what you expect. It takes work, but when you find the right one, you'll want to put the work in, and then you'll know.
Do I feel like there's one person that you can experience everything through? No, I don't. We are different people at different times of our lives, depending on what we're working through and how we morph and change. And based on that, different people show up. And so in that time, that's perfect. But then I don't know that there's always one person for the rest of your life.
Yes, definitely love is a special gift to all humanity.
We're with Bert Campbell. He is a charisma coach. So can you tell us, how has love evolved, especially in the last 60 years?
Yeah, society has changed way more than what it ever has been, right? So there's definitely been a lot more change in the last 100 years than there has in almost like all previous period in mankind, right? So especially nowadays, though, with social media and the way that the internet and texting and emailing and that sort of thing, there's just a total disconnect, right? So a lot of people are going into using other forms rather than actually interacting with each other, right? So that side of it, and then from there, just society changing, like from the war and whatnot, we're being more so, I'll say, raised by more females or no parents and that sort of thing. So we're left to kind of fend more so for ourselves than actually having a figure around to fully raise us, right? So yeah, things are changing, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next little bit. So
I'm wondering also about the traditional roles. Let's see what people say about paying for Valentine's dinner.
You know what? I'd like to think of myself as a gentleman, so I'd like to pay for the date. That said, it's encouraging to see a girl at least place the offer there, that she wants to stand on her own 2 feet and represent herself well, and you honor and appreciate that, but obviously it should be the man's job to handle that. Mm-hmm.
So even how they do their little gestures or anything like that, or even how they say it, or even how they make you feel, just that you're the one.
It's nice to know that a woman also has, knows the value of a dollar, you know, so doesn't expect the man to pay. I mean, at the same sense, I don't think the chivalry is really dead. Myself personally, I would pay, you know, on the date, especially on Valentine's Day. It's kind of a special day of the year, more so than just a regular Thursday night kind of thing. But I think for Valentine's Day, I would pay. Yeah.
On Valentine's Day, so being a woman in business, I mean, I lead on a constant basis. I'm always in charge, and I do, and I have no issue doing that, and I pay for a lot of things, and I'm very generous, which are, to me, they are very masculine traits in a sense. They're very empowering for me, but at the same time, when it's time to connect with someone and allow them to love on me, but more so the feminine side of who I am, it gives me permission to let them have the wheel and allow them to love on me in whatever form that is. And for women that are strong and they're always leading and taking control, it is important for me to allow him to be the man, because I struggle with that usually. And so allowing him to be him and allowing myself to be more in my feminine gives me that balance as well, and allows me to receive. Because as women, we're nurturing and loving, and we give. That's what we do, that's why we're here. And so when you're giving all year, all the time, and someone surprises you with something, it softens you pretty quick. Yeah.
In Valentine's Day, I should pay for dinner because I'm the man, but I think it should be balanced between the man and the woman, you know, not always him or her, whatever.
Not surprising, but fascinating. So most of us still believe in the man paying for dinner. What can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. It's, I mean, for the most part, it's just tradition, right? And it's just the way that, you know, tradition, I mean, just the way that we were basically hardwired right from, like, you know, literally day one till now kind of thing, right? So, and I know that there's like, equal rights, men, women, that sort of thing, right? But, you know, we're basically hardwired for the man to kind of, I'll say, take care of the female, right? In one way, shape, form, or another. And just, I mean, Valentine's Day or paying for a meal is just one sort of form. I mean, there's many forms, right? But it all really does come down to the man, I'll say, taking the lead, so to say, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's, I think that's going to be a tradition that'll, like, kind of, I'll say, last, you know, because it's just the way that we're wired. And, you know, in society with, you know, the males kind of, like I said, taking care of the female, right, in one way, shape, form, or another, so.
Wow, that's exciting. So now coming up next is, what would you like to hear from your significant other?
You know, from all the relationships I've had, I've always, you know, had, you know, decent support on my goals or ambitions and the things that I'm up to. I don't know, I'm a very physical person, so, you know, if, you know, they're tuning into that and saying, you know, good job, you're looking good and stuff like that, that always helps, right? That's motivating, right? Because if you're not getting the appropriate attention at home, you're going to look for it elsewhere, right? And that's only a sign of trouble.
I love you, I miss you. And for my significant other, I said that I would like them to make me feel important, like I'm the one, I'm their type, that they don't need to look elsewhere, that they're satisfied with me.
It's nice to be recognized for things you do. It's the little things that count, but if your significant other can recognize that you're making the effort, and she as well is making the effort, it's nice to see. Both pieces of the puzzle playing together.
Again, I'm a feeler, and so I've heard words come out of people's mouths and my heart just knew that it wasn't real. For me, it's a feeling, it's not so much words, because you can sit in the same space with someone and they can say very little, and yet you can feel them so deeply and you know what they're feeling. And so, you know, the unexpected is always beautiful because it triggers you differently than what you're used to. But I don't know that there's actually like a word.
I would like to hear that I'm a special person for the person that I'm with, because it's, you know, it's good to be reminded of the person you are and how good you are and stuff like that. So.
In your experience, how often is thank yous and compliments forgotten in relationships?
I think all the time. It's really bad. It's something that is so little in a sense, like, or so easy, let's say it that way, but yet has such an impact, right? And I also oftentimes don't think that it's not so much what you say, it's what you don't say is another thing, right? So I think that's huge. And I think that what it really comes down to is in any relationship or successful relationship, right, is being open and being vulnerable, and being able to talk about anything, essentially, right? And I think too many of us kind of, I'll say, hide behind a little bit of a wall, so to say, right? So.
Right, and it's one of those things, like if we take out the garbage all the time, it becomes routine, that we might forget that, thank you for taking out the garbage.
Yeah,
right.
And you have to understand too, like the, one thing, especially from a man's side, he likes to be appreciated, right? And saying thank you and those sorts of things, like, it helps him a lot in, like, being, sort of that man figure, so to say, right? But on the woman's side, or even, it could be on both sides, is understanding, like, what sort of, I always think of the 5 love languages, right? So what sort of gets them, what do they appreciate, or what's their sort of love language? One, I'll say affection is one of them, like touch and that sort of thing. And then, affirmations, just saying thank you, right? And that, you're awesome or you're great or something like that. And then from there is like even acts of service, like taking out the garbage, right? So, but you also have to understand both sides of the coin and what your significant other appreciates, right? Or what they think is like, their definition of being appreciated, so.
Absolutely. So now I'm really excited about what's coming up next. It's probably my favorite part. What is the ultimate deal breaker?
Well, I'll definitely tell you at the gym, one of my pet peeves is girls that chew their gum with their mouths open. That's a big pet peeve for me. I don't know if they do it out of nervousness. Nobody's told them better, but I would think right now that's my biggest pet peeve.
Manners. I think that manners are very important. I was brought up with good manners, and I would expect, I wouldn't say expect, I would like someone to have good manners, because if they're to meet my family, it's very important. It's also how you're raised, and I think it's out of courtesy as well. And by manners, I mean like opening the door, walking on the right side of the street. I mean, these things are, you can tell how someone's brought up if they have good manners. And it doesn't cost anything, so it's just something simple.
Yeah.
When a woman sits and judges others based on how they dress, things they do, things they say, and then they themselves are actually no better.
I'd have to say respect is a big one for me. Mind you, when I say that too, there's levels of that too for me, because there is, when you can feel and see people for who they are, there's things about respect that there's just like, there's no way you'd put up with. But then there's also sometimes where people are being disrespectful, but I don't want to say they don't have a choice, but they're trying to figure themselves out, so you have a little more compassion for them. Respect is something that we require as human beings, so that we're able to just feel like we can be ourselves and not feel judgment, and trust that that person will take all that we are and do well with it. So that we can stay open. So respect is a big one.
Not listening to each other, stuff like that, ignoring, arguing, stuff like that would really bother.
What would be a deal breaker? If she lacks humor, if she lacks the ability to just come outside of herself, and if she's having a hard time just expressing herself, that's obviously going to be challenging. That's just a sign that she's obviously somewhat insecure. You can work with that, like if she's a little bit more of an introvert, that's understandable, but she's got to be willing to expand to some degree.
Someone that doesn't value your time, and someone that's always on their cell phone. If you're gonna go out with somebody and spend time with them, that's where the focus should be, not on the cell phone, social media, who's calling, anything like that. I think that we live in a society where we don't know how to turn it off, and I think that we should respect each other and be able to give a one-on-one time without the cell phones, and maybe put the cell phones away for a little bit.
All right, so you heard them. Now, in your experience, what are some of the ultimate deal breakers, and how can we prevent them?
I think that there's a few of the obvious, like, whether it be smoking or, not maybe, being lazy or not working out, that sort of thing, or just, being stinky in general, right? So that's like the obvious. So from there though, I'm a big advocate of avoiding them in the first place. So it's like if, and I'll take another sort of step back, but even before you even go to the house, and before you want to get into a relationship, is write down the 5 things that you like, or that are must-haves, and the 5, must-not-haves in a relationship. relationship, and smoking could be one or whatever it is kind of thing, right? And then that way when you go out, it's the whole process of qualifying and disqualifying. So it's like you can qualify the person or disqualify them and way sooner upstream, so to say, than you know, like 2 years into the relationship or something like that, right? So then you avoid all the all the hassles and the headaches and that sort of thing. But if you get clear up front who you're looking for and who you want to go out with, it's so much easier on the down the road to have a more successful relationship. A lot of people shouldn't have been past like literally the third date, let alone being married for 10 years or whatever it is kind of thing, right? So, but if you get clear on that in the first place, qualify and disqualify the person, right up front, you avoid a lot of that stuff, so you don't have to worry. So.
Well, thank you so much for your advice. We learned a lot, and of course, it's great to hear some of the confessions. Thank you for all of our candidates for joining in. Coming up next, we have a cardiologist, so it's a different kind of heart. As it being close to Valentine's Day, we start to see heart-shaped boxes everywhere. But there's one heart in particular that we should always keep in mind. You may already know that heart disease and stroke are two of the three leading causes of death in Canada. But it may be surprising that women are more at risk. Today we are joined with a cardiologist, Dr. Anmol Kapoor. Thank you so much for joining us today. So before we get into the details of heart disease and stroke, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from?
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. I'm originally from India and did my medical school in Russia in Russian language.
Wow.
And from there moved to Canada and then started my internal medicine training in Edmonton, University of Alberta, and then went to do cardiology training in Winnipeg and spent a few days in Cleveland Clinic. And then moved to Calgary as I first landed in Calgary in Canada. Love city, love enthusiasm here, very vibrant community. So my heart was in Calgary, so I came back here.
And what made you decide that you wanted to be a cardiologist in particular?
Somebody stole my heart. So I said, okay, I have to get that heart back. So I started becoming a cardiologist, I had to find out. And when I was looking into it and found there are so many other hearts are broken, so need those hearts to be fixed. So learn about it, and it's not the same when we share on Valentine's Day, the same heart-shaped thing, but the heart looks different. I said, well, those things don't match. The picture they taught us in when we grow up, we see in TV, but the real-life heart is not the same. So okay, well, now I have to learn more about it now. So I always intrigued, always knew about that heart disease definitely is a leading cause for death, and the stroke is one of the leading causes of death. I wanted to help as many people I can. So I love my job, and it's something I wake up in the morning and I want to do every day in my life.
And it seems fascinating that you went to school in Russia. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like going to school there?
Yes, because I did my pre-med schooling in India, and I had to do a one-year language course in Russia, in Russian language. So I have to pass their pre-medical courses, so I could become eligible to join their medical school. So I had to go there. I don't know anything in Russian language. So I land in Russia. If you have seen a Tom Hanks movie, Terminal, so that kind of thing happened to me. So I land in Moscow, and around the same time there was a attack on a White House at that time, and the airports were shut down. So I had to stay about 3-4 days in airport. So you can imagine somebody who lands in a foreign country, doesn't know any language, and they don't know your language or English, anything like that at that time. So I had to live there with my luggage, with everything inside the airport, because I can't go out because everything was shut down because of security issues. So when the movie came out, it has a little bit of parts of my life which I lived there. From there, I went to Siberia from Moscow and lived 5.5 years and did my medical school. And I was told that St. Petersburg is one of the most beautiful cities in Russia. And people told me, always make sure you visit before you leave Russia. So I said, I don't want to just visit as a tourist, I want to go live there. So I did my clinical training there after my theoretical practicums and all those things. And it's an amazing city, it's a beautiful city. Okay, and coming from India and Russia have very close contacts, diplomatic contacts. Definitely people are very appreciating me studying there. And Canada is always loved in Russia because of hockey and so many other things we do. So when they found out that I'm moving to Canada, I was getting double appreciated, India and Canada together. So it was an amazing experience. I cherish that. I will always remember that.
And now you are a cardiologist here in Calgary.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experiences in work? Have there ever been some difficulties, or what have you seen in your work days?
There are different challenges we see in healthcare system. It's a public healthcare system, and there are two different kind of things we see from a hospital or cardiologist point of view. People get a heart attack, they have a heart attack, they have a stroke, they go to hospital. So if they get on time, we are able to prevent or limit the damage to brain or heart. But if they come late, then the damage is done. Then we try to prevent further damage, or trying to prevent recurrence of that same event. The pressure on the hospital system is huge. We have limited beds, as you may know, and pressure is there to get people healthier and stable enough so we can empty beds and get other new patients come in. So definitely hospitals are like a war zone, but all these soldiers are coming from community. So we are putting down the fires, we are fixing them, saving their lives, giving them medications, and then going back in the community. And they're living in the community, and they have to take those medications, but the follow-up was not as good, or it lacks in certain areas. So I chose to work in the community, where I could have a direct contact with the community members, direct contact with patients, and help their families, not the patient alone, just everybody else around it, and help lower the burden on healthcare system in hospital, because we need help in community. As we learn from so many other countries, that primary prevention is cheaper than secondary prevention. So why not spend more time and energy in the primary prevention side and help save healthcare dollars? Because as you know, Alberta is in deficit. Canada is maybe in deficit nationally. So definitely we have to save those precious dollars. So that's why we need to spend money and time in the community.
Absolutely. And so you have two programs going on, well, particularly Dill Walk, and you also have a hashtag going around in the community, 21-day exercise, is that right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about how getting involved with social media is helping the community, and how your foundation, Dill Walk, is really impacting lives to prevent heart attacks?
Awesome. Thank you so much for asking that. It's a newer time, and I was in a gym doing exercise, and after doing 30 minutes of cardiac, I was sitting there and came to an idea that it's a newer time, it's 1st of January. Lots of people wake up and they have New Year's resolutions. And we see that everybody wants to have a healthy lifestyle, everybody wants to do all the good stuff in the new year, but most people fall off that wagon and they don't follow through. Reason is the goals are sometimes set too high. Sometimes there is a lack of follow-up, or sometimes there's a lack of motivation. So idea was to have a 20-day exercise challenge, so people can do anything they enjoy. They don't have to go to gym or spend money for the gymnasium. They can do dancing for 30 minutes. They can go for a brisk walk for 30 minutes. They can go skating, they can go skiing, they can go up on the stairs, they can jump, they can spend time with their family, with the kids who can help with the squatting and some other stuff. So the idea is to do 30 minutes of physical activity every day. If a person can do for 21 days or so, it becomes a kind of habit, like a routine. People get used to being good feeling, because after exercise you feel good, and those positive hormones, the positive changes, the positive mindset, it carries them on as a part of daily routine. So it'll be hard for them to then fall off the wagon. So the idea was to share on Facebook, share on social media and Twitter, everywhere else, hashtag 21-day exercise, and asking people to be proud. Sometimes people are hesitant, they're reluctant to show people that I'm physically active. Be proud you're physically active and share it with everybody else and tag it there. So this will, other people will see it. Everybody has some friends on Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else. They will see it. Well, this person is doing for 21 days. Let me give it a shot. Let me try it. So there's no set deadline. Just do it, just whatever you enjoy it. Do it for 21 days, and hopefully that becomes a habit, which is a higher chance, and it'll help lower the risk for heart disease and stroke. And Dill Walk comes along, which is an initiative started about 5 years ago, and the main event will be happening again in June this year coming up. We are realizing the South Asian community is a fastest growing community in Canada, South Asian people from South Asian descent, and they are 3 to 5 times higher chance for having a heart attack than anybody else in Canada, or US or in Europe. It's just not because of some dietary issues. Other people may have also dietary issues. There's something else missing, something genetics, something, maybe lack of exercise, maybe not getting adjusted to environments in Canada, maybe the weather, they're getting afraid, the language barriers, maybe the healthcare system is not able to reach out to them. There is a failure there. So definitely there's a huge gap in the healthcare system. And as mentioned, the primary prevention is cheaper than the secondary prevention. So idea is to reaching out to the community and inviting them free of cost, come to annual events. There they'll be getting educated about heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, and all those things. And then we give them all the resources. We do testing of some of those things. And we also educate them. We have volunteers who come there. We have doctors, other health professionals who come there, devote their time. Everything is free. People come in there, they get to know about it, all the risk factors in different classroom setting. Then they go to gymnasium, then everybody dances. Everybody laughs, because laughter is the best medicine. And when you laugh, other people laugh. Other people smile with you. So your blood pressure slightly goes down. You feel good about yourself, you feel good about everybody else. So then I dance with them, I laugh with them. Tell them I'm not different than them among themselves, because I'm also human. I may also have a heart disease. So they're also helping me, because they're motivating me also both ways. So people come in, then we all go for a walk after that, and we feed them with a healthy food, and it's all is free of cost. There's no registration fees, nothing is charged to anyone. And last year we had about 1,100 people in Calgary showed up, and about 300 or 400 people in Edmonton showed up at Great Hospital when we did the walk event. So there are many things that are going on, and now this foundation is official charity, so any donation can be tax deductible. And soon there is a collaboration going on with the University of Calgary, trying to promote research now. So now we created awareness. We want community to be aware of it, doctors to be aware of it. Now the next step is why there are 3 to 5 times higher chance of heart disease. What else can we do? How we can address this developing world issue in the developed country. So we have these developing people from developing countries in Canada. They have unique issues, but they're Canadians. So we need to address those issues. They are also part of our Canada. We have to help them. So this way the whole Canada becomes healthier and happier.
Fantastic. And so what do you see, for my last question, what do you see, I guess, the heart disease and stroke being prevented in Canada in the next 10 years?
I think there is more resources needs to spend in primary prevention and education. Government needs to promote physical activity. There should be a positive reinforcement. Definitely sometimes they do tax deduction for gymnasiums and some other lifestyles, but there needs to be more resources spent on promotion. If you're taking small chunk of money from a secondary care point of view, if you can spend some more money in the primary prevention, we can help lower burden in the healthcare system. So government needs to spend on that. And we are getting better and better in making people live longer from a heart disease point of view, heart attacks point of view. But strokes are still killing a lot of people. If somebody would ask me personally, Dr. Kapoor, what would you want, heart attack or a stroke? I'll prefer probably a heart attack than a stroke. A stroke is not only impacting the person, it's impacting the family. Person is a breadwinner, may not be able to support family then after that if the stroke is debilitating, and then the system on the healthcare as long as person is living and the rehab process going on, and it's not only impacting the family, it's also impacting the community and the society in Canada overall. So we need to be aware, and we need to find those risk factors, educate people, and when the stroke happens, the heart attack happens, they should be showing up in hospital or calling 911 on time, because time is muscle, time is brain. And we have to save that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. We learned so much about heart disease and stroke. For more information, go to dillwalk.ca. Well, that's it for Bscene TV. If you'd like to share your story or invite us to any of your events, feel free to email us at bscenetv@shaw.ca or find us at Twitter at Bscene TV. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm